We are the ones who don't know what we're fighting for. Give us a gun and send us all off to war. We are the ones who grow up in violent homes. We are the ones who don't know what's right or wrong. I know. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who were born into war. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck no more. No more. We are the ones who don't know why we're losing score. Give them a badge so they could send us to the morgue. We are the ones who are scared to walk out the door. We are the ones who don't know what we're dying for. I know. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who were born into war. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck now. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who were born into war. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck no more. No. Get off his fucking neck. Love that makes you know. He can't fucking breathe. Love that makes you know. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who were born into war. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck now. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who were born into war. We are the ones. We are the ones. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck no more. No.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the latest episode of I'm No Joe, your home for all things combat sports, and the place where every armchair quarterback can feel like Eddie Bravo. The views and opinions presented on the I'm No Joe channel belong solely to the person expressing them, no one else. If we say it, that means we meant it. That being said, this show does contain adult themes, adult content, and general shit that you shouldn't be letting your kids intake. Be advised, viewer discretion is recommended. Proceed at your own risk. You've been warned. If it's Thursday, you're tuned into the only podcast not afraid to stick its gat out for the Rizzler, because we've been certified both Skibbity and Phantom Tax. Give me your Ohio. If you don't know what that means, go ask your nearest school-age child, and when they get done laughing and calling you a boomer, you'll know that you're tuned in to the latest episode of the I'm No Joe podcast, the show where every armchair quarterback can feel like Eddie Bravo. Today, as like most days, I've got a glorious panel here with me to help break down the shit-talking and shenanigans, the fuckery and the fight announcements that have been falling down the MMA tree in the 2 long, agonizing weeks since we've been here with you. But before we get into all the fun and the fuckery, gentlemen, how the hell you doing over there?
What we're fucking doing? Talk about a hangover of hangover cards. Like, you think a hangover card's supposed to come the week after? No, this is 2 weeks post-mortem and you're still thinking about sticking your dick in it, and there's a problem.
They thought they were slick giving you that week off and then sliding that hangover card in like nobody was going to notice. But
Dude, I'm just saying, you're getting screwed without the courtesy of a reach around. Didn't even take you out for dinner first on this one.
they didn't even spit on their hand this time, man. This is going to be rough.
I feel the same way with these fights. Life's been pretty good otherwise. It's rough. I feel like it's been a hangover start to the year, and next week's not getting any better. In all honesty, I don't think it's getting better for a few weeks till we get to Mexican Independence Day. That card's looking promising. But, oh man, yeah, a lot of weeks straight, 11 straight weeks. But you're gonna have some rough ones.
That's the damn truth. That's the damn truth. So, that being said, as we like to do to kick things off around here, we're going to jump right into the news and recent events, all the relevant fight announcements that have been confirmed or canceled, or rumors that have been finalized, things like that. All the interesting and relevant information, the big stuff anyway. The little stuff, the weird details, the stuff that's not worthy of showtime, you can always go over to the ImNoJo Discord, link in the scroll bar down or in the description. News that's not quite show worthy and all the weird shit gets posted over there. The rest of it we're about to get into. So, start things off here on, I guess, would be a positive note for the TKO group, as it's now referred to. Rock, the Dwayne Johnson, has officially taken a seat upon the TKO board. It is official. He is now part of the TKO board of trustees. Part of the reason that came about is because Vince McMahon had to officially resign from the TKO board of trustees. If you would like to know why TKO had to essentially mean mug Vince McMahon into signing his own resignation, I will leave that detail for you to search on your own. Just know that Vince is out and now Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is officially in, not in his spot, but in the board for now. That being said, we talked about it while we were watching the fights live. We've talked about it several times since then. My initial suspicions have been confirmed. Amanda Nunes has officially said she still feels like a champion and she's not sure if she's going to stay retired or decide to throw her hat back into the ring. I said it the second that fight started, and we all saw how that fight ended. And then with some of the announcements that I've got, they're going to come later in this news section. It'll make even more sense, but I called it when they were fighting for that belt, that I bet Amanda was sitting at home just salivating, licking her lips, knowing how easy it would be for her to just waltz right back in and snatch that fucking belt. And it seems like she was thinking exactly that. So we will see how the future plays out. But I don't think we have seen the last of the Lioness, especially considering the landscape that she left behind. It's going to be real interesting to see how that ladies 135 and what's left of 145 plays out in the UFC. That being said, the card for UFC 298 coming up in 2 weeks for February 17th has already started taking chops. We officially have confirmation Ikram Aliskerov is now out of his fight with Fluffy Hernandez. Luckily, Fluffy Hernandez gets to stay on the card and presumably in the main card opener, but will now be taking on Roman Kopylov. Possibly an even better fight than the original. I think Kopylov is a little more accomplished, a little more experienced here. I think he will make for a better fight. I am curious what Aliskerov is actually capable of, but I think in this situation for the pay-per-view opening fight, I think Kopylov's a little more capable of handling the situation, and I think just all around stylistically makes it a little bit more interesting of a fight. So we'll see how that one plays out as well. Speaking of the Mexico City card on February 24th, a very interesting ladies fight has been added to that card that I am very excited to see shake out here. Sam Hughes stepping back into the octagon to take on Yasmin Uregui. Yasmin is one of those prospects that has kind of slid under the radar, but some of us have been watching and screaming her fucking name for a hot minute now. And Sam Hughes being where she's at, if Yasmin can come out and put on a show, not only can she get a boost off that name, but she might be the one to personally hand Sam those walking papers. It's a realistic possibility. So very curious to see how that one shakes out, but it's definitely going to add some fire to that Mexico City card for sure. That being said, Interesting things happening on February 24th, but on the other side of the planet, over in Saudi Arabia, the Bellator versus PFL Champions card has an interesting twist being added to it here, sort of at the last minute, just a couple weeks out. We got confirmation that Vadim Nemkov has officially vacated the Bellator light heavyweight belt and instead will be taking on Bruno Capoloza on that February 24th card at heavyweight. Now focusing primarily on heavyweight, done with the light heavyweight division, Nemkov says. Interestingly enough, the next one that came down the pipeline for that was that on March 22nd, there will be a Bellator card taking place in Belfast, Ireland, and the main event for that card will be none other than Corey Anderson versus Carl Moore for the light heavyweight belt that has just been vacated by Vadim Nemkov. Kind of an interesting turnabout how that comes. I think the biggest part of that, for me at least, wasn't so much that Nemkov is vacating the belt and focusing solely on heavyweight, but it was the confirmation that there are going to be more Bellator cards and that the next one, prospectively, is going to be taking place in Belfast, Ireland, and their main event will be a title fight. So even under the new PFL conglomerate, though they've been purchased, Bellator, at least for the time being, will live on and has already got their titles shifting around, as well as champion versus champion fights with the PFL contenders. So things could get very interesting over on that side of the house. Now, speaking of that February 24th PFL versus Bellator champions card, there, if you paid attention, were a couple of divisions that Bellator has that PFL doesn't. So there was a couple of guys literally just kind of left out in the cold because the weight classes don't exist in both organizations here. Well, we've got one of those situations figured out here. Magomed Karamov has officially been pulled out of his welterweight fight with Jason Jackson, and stepping in his place will now be Ray Cooper III. Also on that February 24th over in Saudi Arabia, those two now will be fighting at a catch weight of 182 pounds. So neither one of them having to cut all the way down to welterweight, but still neither one of them quite making it a middleweight affair, because that would interrupt some of the other champ versus champ fights that they do have booked. So kind of interesting to see how it all shakes out. I'm very interested to see how it actually works out in the pay-per-view sense, and how it just works out champion for champion when they actually put them head to head like that. So could be real fun, could be a major fucking flop. Either way, I'm curious. So we'll see. Back over to the UFC side of the house here for the March 16th card, which to the surprise of no one will now be at the Apex. Ovens St. Peru, OSP, is officially climbing back in the cage, taking on Kennedy and Chukwu. That, I don't know. I'm not sure. Nchukwu has very much been hot and cold himself, but if even a fraction of what we've seen from him shows up, he could be sending OSP walking papers in the middle of next month. So very interesting matchup there as well. I'm kind of curious to see how that one plays out and which version of Kennedy we see walk out to the cage. Let's see. Where the fuck is that? I don't remember where this one is. Let's see. Oh, there we go. For the March 30th card, that's where it is. In Atlantic City, the UFC has already lost its main event that it had to shuffle 3 goddamn times. Dominic Reyes is officially out of the main event, and ironically enough, they are keeping Carlos Ulberg on the card, but he will now be taking on Alonzo Menafield in that main event, as if that card could not use more bullshit. I almost feel bad for that Atlantic City card, but I have a feeling as we get closer, there may be more fuckery in store for there. We'll see. April 6th, again in the Apex, to the surprise of no one. Another very interesting potential walking papers fight. Cynthia Calvillo finally getting back into the UFC octagon for what is prospectively the final fight on her UFC contract against Piera Rodriguez. Not necessarily the most entertaining fight, but again, from what I have been able to find, this is the final fight on Calvillo's contract with the UFC, and they have zero interest in re-signing. So this is very much, at least from appearances side, the UFC showing Calvillo how little they care about her in sending her out the door. That being said, we did get a trio of very interesting news for UFC 300. We talked a couple weeks ago about Jim Miller being confirmed right off of the back of his fight, going back to UFC 300, fighting against Bobby Green. We got a couple more announcements in the time that we've been gone here. The first one added to UFC 300, going down April 13th at the T-Mobile Center in Las Vegas. Sadiq Youssef versus Diego Lopes. That is going to be a spectacular fight. They had the fight confirmed, signed for a while now, but it's actually been moved around a couple times, and they have decided to land it on UFC 300. So there was a lot of talks that they were trying to get that on the Mexico City card, obviously with Diego Lopes, but it looks like it's landing on 300. Another very interesting fight that they have slapped onto 300. Jessica Andrade versus Marina Rodriguez at 125 pounds. Andrade is going back down from her quote-unquote return to bantamweight, guess not, and taking on Rodriguez again at UFC 300. I don't know about that fight, but it will be interesting. Speaking of don't know about that fight, but it will be interesting. The big one that has been announced this week, the UFC has officially signed Kayla Harrison, and she will make her debut at UFC 300 in the 135-pound division against one Holly, the preacher's daughter, Holm.
I'm gonna go ahead and say it right now. That is gonna be the first fight canceled on that card because she's gonna miss weight. She's way too big to be cutting to 135.
She has said, and Dana came out and said the same thing, that she has done a test cut to 135 and doesn't think it's going to be a problem. Now, the rest of us who have seen anything of Kayla's career immediately started waving the bullshit flag, including her opponent, Holly Holm, who promptly came out and said, if she misses weight, we are not fighting at UFC 300. She is not going to use the scale to try to bully me just because it's her debut. And good for fucking Holly in this situation, because there is such a narrow chance realistically that Kayla is going to be able to make 135 pounds and then be a competent version of herself the next day to fight somebody as legitimately capable and well-rounded for the 135-pound division as Holly Holm. If she don't make that weight, Holly ain't gonna do it, and I don't blame her.
She's only got 11 weeks right now. Like from right now, about 11 weeks.
Yeah.
She had better have been cutting weight before they fucking signed her.
I was just gonna say, as soon as she signed that contract, she better have started cutting weight, because she did an interview last week or the week before and said that she right now, and generally speaking, walks around between 165 and 175 pounds. 11 weeks to cut 40 pounds and then be able to turn around and rehydrate and fight 24 hours later is a tough ask for any athlete, let alone somebody who's already on the back end of their career, stepping in for one of the bigger debuts we've seen recently. I agree 100% with TJ here. I have very little faith that this fight actually makes it to 300, let alone, to the scales, if we make it to UFC 300. We'll see as we get a little closer in a couple weeks, but I'm saying right now that something smells fishy about that whole fucking setup. That being said, we got a pair of what the fuck are we really doing announcements this week. The first one was that the Sean Brady versus Vicente Luque main event for Atlantic City, or originally scheduled for Atlantic City, was off. And Sean Brady said that he never signed that contract because he has been injured for a minute and has told them that he's going to need a couple weeks longer than the Atlantic City headline. He's looking at probably April, maybe even May, till he's ready to fight again. And they had went ahead and announced that fight anyway, and he confirmed this week, no, that fight's not fucking happening. I'm still hurt. There's no way I will be ready by then. I never signed that contract. I don't know why they announced it anyway. As if that wasn't enough, then we turn around and found out from Dustin Poirier through a tweet that his fight with Benoit Saint-Denis for UFC 298 in 2 weeks never had a confirmed signed contract for that either. And that at this point, it looks like the fight is off. And then that's the last we heard about it for a couple days. And then literally just this afternoon, we get word from Dustin Poirier that, quote unquote, I'm using air quotes for those of you just listening, I spoke too soon. I hadn't been able to get a hold of my manager for a few days, but everything is straightened out. I've spoken to him and Hunter from the UFC now. It is confirmed. The fight is on for 298. See you in Miami.
That sounds like Dana White's like, here's a buttload of money. I'm pissed off at you, but you're gonna take this fight.
Right. I have zero doubt that the UFC announced that fight without Dustin having signed it, just based on him saying, yes, I'll take it, without actually putting pen to paper yet. I have no doubt that the UFC can, will, and probably did go forward with that plan. As we know, they clearly did in the Sean Brady versus Vicente Luque situation. On the other hand, Dustin Poirier let them announce that fight, I think we said 4 or 5 weeks ago, and let word just go and build. And they released a fucking poster with him on it for UFC 298. And then Dustin Poirier tweets, looks like the fight's off. I never signed the contract. Wink. And then after a couple of days of radio silence, now all of a sudden, oh, sorry guys, I talked to everyone. Everything's okay now. Fight's back on. Wink. See you in Miami. Golf clap, sir. Well done. Well done. He let the UFC do all the heavy lifting in his negotiation. And then when they were stretched all the way over the barrel, he just rested his hand on their back and went, how much did you say you were going to give me for this fight? And they had no choice but to open their wallet. And I bet that man's getting paid. So good on you for that one, Dustin. Good on you for that one.
The
Now,
big payback.
right? Yeah, he's definitely gonna get that money for sure. So we got a pair of kind of polar opposite sides of the coin announcement here. The first one, the Olympian himself, Mark O. Madsen, Canadian Pride, has officially decided he is going to call it quits from MMA and retired this week. Well deserved. Again, we're always happy to see athletes retire when they're able to form complete sentences and tie their own shoes so that they can enjoy the rest of their fucking lives versus the opposite. This is one of those times. I have nothing but fucking positive hopes for Mr. Madsen and the rest of his life. He is able to speak fluently in 2 languages, mind you, and still carry on competent conversation and walk like a formed, civilized adult. Good on him. Don't get punched in the face for living anymore. Go live your life, sir. Now, on the opposite side of that coin, we got, because of course we did, extra fucking weirdness in the news this week. In the words that Kevin Lee himself has decided to unretire, and not only unretire, but he says within 6 months, he's going to be ready to come back and take a fight at 155 pounds, and he will be staying in the lightweight division. He's not going to balloon up and take big fights anymore. He's going to trim down to the best shape of his life and show the lightweight division what they've been missing.
That leads us to a very important question. And I think you know what that question is.
Trash can handy. was going to show the trash can, but I don't have one close enough. Yeah. But that being said, the final story I got for news for this week, legitimately might have made me the most happy I have been doing MMA news research in at least a couple of years. And I don't mean that sarcastically, and I don't mean that facetiously. I genuinely mean reading this story made me the happiest I have been doing MMA research in years. California State Athletic Commission leader Andy Foster is officially coming to this month's ABC commission meeting and proposing rule changes we have all been waiting nearly 30 fucking years to be implemented. Andy Foster said, and I quote, "We made some mistakes and it's time to fix them. The grounded opponent rule is neither unified nor logical. It's time to fix both of those problems." They're going to confirm no longer just a hand. You must have something other than just a hand, an elbow, a knee, your back. You must be on the ground to be a grounded opponent. No more fucking hand games. No more lifting people up so they can't touch the ground. All of that shit is done. It should have been a long fucking time ago. Better late than never, though. And the piece de resistance, the chef's kiss, the cherry on top of this fucking Sunday of glorious news, 12-6 elbows are done. Andy Foster himself said, so we're going to use the clock. Then why is 12-6 bad, but 11-3 or 3-9 is fine when you can get much more torque on a 3-9 elbow than you can a 12-6? It doesn't make sense, and it's time to get rid of it. Thank you, MMA gods, for speaking to him and letting him hear your words.
You know what it
literally
is? I think they finally came to, there's one person that finally put two and two together and said, just because this looks terrifying in a fucking movie doesn't mean it's terrifying in real life. Because that's a lot of what that was based on, was people saw shit in a movie that looked, oh, guys break boards with 12-6 elbows. Well, no shit. Let them fucking bring one of these over from the shoulder like they're throwing a fucking overhand right. They'll break a lot more boards with that than they will with the fucking 12-6.
Step into a 3-9 like we've seen, or a spinning 3-9.
Yeah, those are a fucking. This is fucking toddler play. This is Mike Tyson hitting a toddler play. There's a difference.
Right. Yeah. Better late than never, but thank you, Andy Foster, for finally showing some testicular fortitude and owning up to the fucking mistakes that were allowed to run for literally 3 decades. Let's get this shit straightened out. Force every commission to accept the unified rules. That's why you call them unified. Have every fucking commission use the unified MMA rules, and let's make fighting safer than it is right now. And it can be more entertaining. It can be better for everyone involved, and common sense can prevail. That's why it's taken so long to get here, but common sense can still prevail. That being said, either one of you gentlemen have anything in the news that I might have missed this week?
The only one that I did want to mention, because it's a feel-good story, Jailton Almeida down in Brazil doing a charity fight.
This one is also in the Discord, but yes, absolutely.
But it's just worth mentioning to me.
Absolutely.
He went out, and a guy with Down syndrome who's been training wanted to have a fight, so Jailton went out and fought him. He made that kid work for it, though. He made him work for fucking 3 fucking rounds. And it was a fantastic thing to watch. If you can go back, and there's plenty of video footage of it out there, go back, watch it. It's one of those similar things like Diego Sanchez did it way back in the day, too.
Yep.
It's just a fucking feel-good story to show that, yeah, these guys are fucking killers, but their heart is still in the right place when they're out fucking just in the normal everyday life. So doing something like that, knowing that he has a fight coming up.
Right.
If I'm not mistaken, he's fighting Curtis Blades coming up here shortly. And that's a tough fight.
Weeks.
So he took time out of his schedule to go to this event, compete in the event, and let that kid fucking work and get W under his belt and do it all for charity. Look, that's a huge fucking feel-good moment. You don't have to like how boring of a fight he had with Derek Lewis, but on the other side of that, the dude's a killer most of the time. So there was that. But what a great feel-good story. If you can go out and find the videotape footage, go out and do it. It's totally worth it.
I believe the story in Discord has a link to at least the finish of the fight, if not the whole fight and the highlights. But it's well worth looking for if it's not all there.
Then again, also, now I don't use Discord, so didn't know it was in there. I'm not I rarely use any social media.
Yeah, the only thing I got, keeping up on some young kids, they got a little prospect matchup from March 23rd, Peyton Talbot versus Cameron Seaman. I'm excited as hell for that fight. Peyton Talbot looked fucking pretty damn good. Like his debut, man, it looked like the kid didn't know how to grapple worth a shit. When round 2 comes out, he's looking like Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady in MMA. He completely fucking switched up the game plan, learned how to fucking grapple, learned jiu-jitsu on the fly in 5 fucking minutes. Goes out there, looks unbelievable the whole rest of the fight. Dominated. This is going to be fun. Gonna be 2 young kids going back and forth. That's a good one.
Good shit. Good shit. Well, that being said, speaking of young kids, that'll bring us to the point in the show where sometimes if you've been watching MMA as long as some of us have, you get to a certain point where you've developed almost a set of blinders. You learn what you like to watch, when it comes on, how to watch it, where to find it, and you almost lose the forest for the trees, as it were. But luckily for us here on the show, we've got ourselves a bona fide young person who can get out there and just ever so delicately finger the pulse of the MMA world and keep us abreast of all the names that are going to be names before they actually are names in a little segment that we like to call Slow's Cans and Contenders.
Appreciate you, brother. So start out with the cans for this weekend. I mean, you can pick a lot off of this card. I'm going to lump this together real quick. Damn near all the ladies on the card I'm throwing in the can. As sad as that may be, we do have some of them that I'm excited about, right? But the majority of them thrown in the can. The fight as a whole, Luana Carolina versus Julia Stoliarenko. Just not interested in the fight at all. Stoliarenko's probably going to win. She's a better grappler. It's probably not going to be something people are interested in watching. If there's not a finish in this fight, it's going to be a fucking snooze fest. If you need a little nap, this is the fucking time to get it in. Fucking then you got Diana Belbita and Viviane Araujo. Definitely got to throw them in the can at this point. Araujo's been middle of the pack her whole career. Belbita, even if she's fucking young, 2-4 in the UFC, just really hasn't done shit since she's gotten in there. Got to throw them in the can. And then on the guys' side of things, Blake Builder, Pete Rodriguez. I know Rodriguez has gotten nothing but finishes in his wins, but the kid hasn't fought worth a shit, hasn't been active at all since he got in the UFC. And the only motherfucker he's finished in the UFC was Mike Jackson. I ain't saying shit. Kid hasn't fought decent competition. And he's not really fighting great competition this weekend either in Thimba Garimbo, but that kid's got a good story. So I'm going to root for him. Don't really like the Pete Rodriguez cocky ass attitude either. So fuck throwing him in the can. The Schrodinger's can tender, as fucking meters coined the term. We're throwing it to Molly McCann this weekend. She's always fun as hell to watch, right? But we know she's not really a contender. You're fighting Diana Belbita for the second fucking time. It's probably going to be exactly same way the first fight was. She's going to dominate it. She's probably going to go out and get a finish, but doesn't do much for her. Just like she dropped a straw weight here. Even if she handles the weight cut well and everything looks good, it just doesn't do much for her. The age that she's at, the point that she's at in her career, that's all she's ever going to have is fun fights. You know, she's just an exciting fucking watch in and out of the octagon. We're all there for it. I'd love to see her fight for another fucking few years, handful of years. She's an exciting fighter, but she's not going to no title, so I couldn't say she's a contender, but I'm also not going to say she's a king. She is that middle of the pack kind of fighter, but she's that fighter you want to see, and you don't get that out of a lot of ladies in the MMA sphere. You know, the ladies that go out to throw it all on the table. I mean, she's get or get got. She's going to give it her fucking all, and she's going to get finished, or she's going to get a finish, and puts on exciting fights. It's what you want to see. So she's, you know, right in the middle. There's never a fucking moment where you hear Molly McCann's fight and you're like, no. You're like, pass. You want to watch her fight, but she's not a contender. She probably won't ever be a contender. She's not going to get a title shot. So she's Schrodinger's contender. Giving her that coin term. For the contenders this weekend, I'll start with the lady that I've got as a contender, Natalia Silva, the 26-year-old. I'm really excited about her. I think she's got a lot of striking ability. Viviana Araujo is just really a name. She's beaten some decent girls, and she had that moment where she got the opportunity to fight top competition, and she didn't look good once she got to that top competition. Natalia Silva's just building her way up. She's looked pretty fucking good since she's gotten in the UFC. She's got a lot of finishing potential. And I feel like she goes out there and gets another finish. Just continues to build that fucking contender spot, you know, be another little contender in that flyweight division. We know Erin Blanchfield is the big prospect right now. Maybe Natalia Silva is the one, you know, challenging her here in a couple of years. I also got a bunch of young guys. The Young Lee, the young Korean, came off of the UFC or the road to the UFC. He won the final last year. This will be like his true UFC debut, fighting Blake Builder. Guy hasn't looked good since he got in the UFC. This is probably going to be an easy fight for him. He's got a lot of finishes, a lot of finishing ability, you know, the knockout power. So I'm excited for this young kid. Azat Muxum, 17-0. Another situation. Tons of finishing ability. Flyweights are always fun as fuck. You know, the Kazakhstan aspect of it. These Kazakhs seem pretty fucking fiery, you know. They've been pretty exciting. Shavkat himself, you know, something fucking special. So looking forward to seeing that kid. You got Thomas Peterson. He's starting us off fucking heavyweights. I'm excited about this young kid. His only loss in his career was to Waldo Cortez Acosta, which, I mean, is a little blemish there because I don't think Acosta's worth much of a damn. He has gotten a few wins since he got to the UFC, but all the low-level guys in that heavyweight division. Peterson's finished every one of his fights. He's fighting Jamal Pogues this weekend, a guy that is not known for finishes, does not have a lot of striking ability. And in the heavyweight division, I mean, that's what you want to see. You want to see the heavy hitters. I think we'll see that out of Peterson. Markel Maderos is another young kid I'm really looking forward to off the Contender Series last year. He was one of them that actually impressed. You know, had a pretty fucking impressive knockout in the first round last October. Excited to see what this kid does. And he's fighting another kid that's looked pretty exciting on the regional scene and shit, working his way to the UFC. Landon Quinones. I mean, they're both really young. They're both talented, have that finishing ability. And Quinones fought Nasrat Haqparast in his debut. So, I mean, that was kind of it was like Diego Lopez. It was like coming in and fighting Evloev to start. It's a pretty tough test, fighting Nasrat Haqparast. He didn't look too horrible in the fight, even though he lost. And we're excited to see those two young kids go at it. You got Roman Dolidze, I kind of feel like he's got the slight edge to me. I feel like ImNoBookie can win. Whoever wins the main event becomes a slight contender because they're probably going to get a top 10 fight. It's not a lot on the line this weekend, but I feel like Dolidze kind of edges it out. He looked more exciting as of late. You know, he had that 4-fight winning streak before losing to Vittori. So kind of throw him in the contender spot. I'd love to hear what you boys got though for this weekend. Your cans and contenders.
Top can of the week to me, Charles Johnson. 100%. Mr. I bitch about fighting in the Apex. When I've only won 1 of 3 fights in the UFC, bitch, you don't deserve anything other than the fucking Apex. You're lucky you still deserve to be in the fucking UFC at this point. And Azat is just gonna fucking, I think he's gonna just run the fucking table with him. So Charles Johnson, big into the fucking can side of the house here. Now on the fucking, I've got one other Schrodinger's contender here. Muslim Salikov, King Kung Fu. He is either fucking hot or he's not. I don't think we're ever going to see him fight for a title, but he's always seems to be fucking kind of exciting to watch, even when he's getting the brakes beat off of him. Oh, and I mean, he was his last fight that he had ended up pulling out, so we'll finally get to see him back in there. But I do look at him as a Schrodinger's contender. He's either is or he isn't. We won't fucking know until goddamn Saturday. Oh, as far as a contender is concerned, I'm still trying to find one on this fucking card. I really am. It's fucking terrible. This is honestly the worst card that we've seen in a long time, in my opinion. The co-main, nothing to write home about. We know Drew Dober is going to be fucking exciting because that's just the kind of fighter he is. Renato Moicano, I've come to really dislike because he's a mouthy motherfucker who thinks he's better than what he actually is. I'm not calling him a scrub by any means. There's a reason why he's got a rank by his name, but he's not as good as he thinks he is. In the main event, Roman Dolidze and Nasruddin Imavov. Still trying to find out why this is a fucking main event worthy. This seems like a co-main event fight if I've ever seen one. But, you know, I guess if I'm going to have to pick one this week, I'm going to go a little fucking off the rail here on my own here. And I'm going to call Molly McCann the contender here, just purely on the drop to straw weight. Because that might be what she needed. Because if you looked at her before, she was undersized in division higher. Yeah, she was getting some finishes, but a lot of those were, I'm not gonna lie, they were luck based. Throwing the right fucking spinning elbow to fucking get a knockout, that kind of thing. But then when that blew her up into the fucking stratosphere as far as let's push her, she got subbed twice in a fucking row. I think this drop in weight where she's going to be the bigger girl in the fucking cage is actually going to be helpful for her. So I can see the contender status out of her.
Interesting indeed. Good points from both of you. I don't know that I can agree with Molly being a contender. I will definitely give her the Schrodinger contender because we've seen she can go either fucking way here, and against mixed bag competition at best, I think it's definitely a Schrodinger's contender situation. I do have a very clear can and contender for this week, even though it's not the greatest card. My can, Hanato wants money. Like, I don't in any way, shape, or form think that Drew Dober is a world beater. We've had our eye on him for a while, but he's been very up and down. He's a fun fighter. He's always good to make it entertaining. but I don't know how much Hanato has left. There's a reason he started to make such a hard heel turn lately, trying for all the big fights, not necessarily the meritocratic fights, but the big name fights, the draw fights. It says Hanato wants money because he's at the end of his fucking career. I don't know if he's got enough left in the tank to get past a still coming to his prime Drew Dober at this point left in his game. Now, the other side of it here, my contender, I can't really call a true full-on contender. This is one of those, I'm giving him the contender status contextually because of the situation that he is in here, and that's Gilbert Urbina. We know that family produces fighting men. They might not all be title worthy, but they are all fighting men from that fucking family. And at least from what I have seen in watching the Urbinas, plural, for a couple of years now, at the very least, they all tend to carry one trait, in my opinion, and that's that none of them think they are actually as good as they are. They all need to be reminded of how good they actually are. They're more capable than they're willing to acknowledge themselves. And then we've got Charles Radke on the other side here, who is almost the polar opposite. He's the guy you can just look at and be like, no, dude, I'm not going to pay you $55 a gram. I don't care who your dad is or what dealership he owns. Back off, Chad. Like, he's that dude that is exuding undue confidence in his own ability that he hasn't earned yet. And I think when you match him up here, I think Urbina has a chance to come out and really shine and show Radke how not capable he actually is. So, situationally, at least, Team Urbina this weekend, goddammit.
I'm surprised with that one. That's for sure. I mean,
I wasn't
he
expecting you to
looked
say
good in
Urbina.
his real debut. You know, like I'm not gonna lie, the kid does have potential. I felt like he just kind of choked or froze up in the final against Brian Battle and shit like that. So him getting the second chance, you know, I questioned it when the UFC gave him that opportunity, but then he fucking lays out Orion Kosk. Let's see what the kid can fucking do. I don't hate it, but it's definitely a surprising pick. Now, I'm not surprised with TJ's fucking can throwing Charles Johnson in there. I wasn't doing it because I'm not throwing Missouri boys in the can. He's got the finishing potential, and the motherfucker's been one of the most active fighters ever since he got into the UFC. 6 fucking fights, and he's been in the UFC for just over a year. So it is what it is. 3 fight loss streak, right? He's 2-4 in the UFC, and he hasn't gotten shit worth of a finish really since he's been in the UFC.
The
Give him
bitchiness
all
is
that
what gets
shit,
me.
but Missouri guys, we'll root for him to the
Look,
fucking death.
I'm not mad at you for backing your hometown boys. I'm really not. I'm just calling a
Yeah,
fuck.
just like I told you, I'm not mad at you for putting them in the can. I'm just
It's
mad.
just a spade a spade. I'm just saying. The dude's bitching about, I don't want to fight in the Apex. I want big fights. I want to be on big cards. Bitch, you have to earn that right.
Yeah,
It's
you
not fucking
gotta
earned
win.
it. You got to win
But
your.
at the same time, like my one
It's,
point I made, he's been active as shit.
he's
Like,
look. He's got to think of himself like he's playing Punch Out. You don't get the big fights right away. You got to work your way through the fucking levels to get to that Mike Tyson fight. Bitch, you keep falling back to Glass Joe.
I was just thinking Angela Hill's real active too, and that don't really mean shit if you look at the fights.
but they just gave her ass a main event last year, didn't they?
She's been active enough though to earn that main event, and she's had way more wins than fucking he has. What a fucking ugly one. Woof. I'm out.
What an ugly one. Hey, it's gonna be a rough weekend, boys. At least we pulled something out of our ass, try to make it look good.
You can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a fucking pig. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I appreciate you boys trying to help me prettier up.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. So normally I would have a big old fight menu ready at this point, like I've been trying to remember to do. Unfortunately for this weekend, the fight menu consists of the UFC card we're already talking about. That's it this weekend. There's no Octagon, there's no KSW, there's no ONE FC. There is, I will say, there is a boxing card this weekend, but I don't know enough about anyone on the card personally to give you any kind of advice whether it's going to be good, bad, or otherwise. So with that being said, this would normally be the point where we would talk about how there's no B-rolls and it costs you just $1 to help do what we do around here. And at this point, I'm not going to ask you that. I know it's just after the first of the year and everybody's just getting their stuff together, but unfortunately, one of our biggest supporters and longtime friend of the show, Edward Capp, passed away last week from cancer. And if you've got $1 to spare, I don't want it. I would much rather you, down in the description, there is a link to the GoFundMe to help his family take care of his final expenses. I would much rather you give that $1 to him. Come back next month if you like what I do, and then give me that $1. But in the meanwhile, I would much rather you give anything that you've got to spare to our friend Ed's family. Mimi and the kids can absolutely use every penny you can spare. If you don't have a penny, it doesn't cost you anything to share his GoFundMe. Please help us put our friend and his family at ease in this very difficult time. That being said, there is one segment on our show that does require its own individual disclaimer. So, if you will, Tapology.com does not in any way, shape, or form sponsor, support, or endorse the I'm No Joe podcast. Yet. That being said, Tapology.com does offer you the option to go onto their site, create a free account, and make fantasy-style MMA picks. They even let you make groups on the site, so we did that. We made a group. It's called ImNoBookie or Group 965. However you need to find it, it is open to the public. You are more than welcome to and encouraged to make yourself an account, join the group, and let us know who the fuck you are, because if you are watching this live, you have until Saturday morning. If you are listening to this in all audio format, you have already missed your window. You have until this weekend to get your account made. Let us know who you are to get into the I'm No Joe Spring Grand Prix in the little segment that we will call Tapology with TJ.
I really don't want to relive this weekend, but here we fucking go. So, we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna relive all the way back to 2 weeks ago, January 20th, the Strickland Duplessis card, UFC 297. As far as picks were concerned, as a group, we did like absolute dog shit again. As a whole, overall, it was pretty fucking bad. Now, caveat to that statement is there are 2 people in our entirety of our group that got fucking over 500 or better, I should say. Only one person was over 500, and that's Christian. Christian knocked out of the park, 712 correct, 490 points. Meter wasn't too far behind him, 6 correct, 12 there, 390. Had he gotten the last fight right with perfect, it would have been a fucking tie. Nod goes to Christian this week, which is all right, because the rest of us tripping over our shit did not get above 500%. Not gonna lie, a lot of those fights did not go the way I thought they were going to. So I'll take my five W's and run with that and call it a fucking day. In fact, I'm really not mad about it because I wasn't far. In all theory, I wasn't far off the lead. It was just what it is what it is. But the one person who really tripped hard this week was Vindog Booty Hog. 4-12. No decisions, no perfects, no semi-perfects. He literally got baseline points. So yeah, he picked some fights right, but that's a rough way to fucking trip over your dick. Like, you don't even get a fucking partial correct in there. It's I'll put it like this. It's like taking a test and passing with a D-.
He was
That's
beating his
kind of
dick
what
like
happened.
it was late on a payday loan, man.
Yeah. That guy's looking for him. Where's my money? Fucking shooting kneecaps out and shit. You know what I'm saying? It was a rough showing for us as a whole. But on the plus side, that gave us 2 weeks to collect ourselves before this spring Grand Prix fucking starts where I can go and defend my Grand Prix title. Because you don't have to win every week to win the fucking Grand Prix. You just have a good string of weeks. So in this case, what's it, 11 in this fucking Grand Prix? 11 fucking weeks of don't fuck it up, Buttercup. Or if you're going to fuck it up, only fuck it up one time. Or pray to God you did really well and everybody else just did just a tad better and you'll be okay. But yeah, if you're not a member, come join us over on Tapology. ImNoBookie, Group 965. Let us know who you are. I will let you know when you've done well. I will pat you on the back as we did with Christian there today. I will tell you when you've tripped over your dick and passed with a D- a la Vindog the Booty Hog this week. It doesn't matter who you are. I talk shit about myself when I do poorly. It doesn't matter. We don't play favorites here. We play favorites of who wins and who loses. And you get talked about. Sometimes when you're in the middle like the rest of us this week where we all shit the bed, we all tripped over our dicks, vaginas, whatever body part you assume to have. I don't know, don't care. But, you know, still going to get the trip over your dick award when you're at the bottom, whether you got one or not. Now, with all that being said, get in, let us know who you are. We'll get you into that Grand Prix, get you knocked out there. You got about 48 hours and some change to get in. Well, not quite 48 hours. You're probably looking closer to like 36. Somewhere in that neighborhood. But anyhow, Group 965, ImNoBookie. Come join us. We're going to cut over into some odds for this week. Now, I want to say, just like I'm saying about the entirety of this card, it's absolute dog shit. Obviously, the bookies agree. Because we are back to, oh my God, somebody got caught cheating fucking bookie numbers. In other words, there's no huge fucking splits. Damn near everything is fucking coin flips. The widest margin on the card is a minus 350 plus 275. That is the widest margin on the entirety of the fucking card via BetMGM. Now, like, depending on where you're betting, those odds may differ a little bit. That widest odd on the card here is Natalia Silva and Viviane Araujo. They've got Araujo coming in as a plus 275 underdog, and Natalia Silva coming in as a minus 350 favorite. Makes sense. Not mad at it. Now, I was saying, Mike Schrodinger's contender, he also kind of got some, I'll say fairly wide odds, considering he's like the second widest odds on the card. And that is Muslim Salikov coming in as a plus 225 underdog, and Randy Brown coming in as a minus 275 favorite. Even the bookies know he is Schrodinger's contender, so you can't give him a lot of fucking credit. The only other fight that is worth mentioning on here came in a close second or a close third to being second, and by that I mean a fucking cunt's hair. Pardon the way I phrased that, but whatever. I'll just say it was tighter than fish pussy. How about that? That's better. Now, that fight is going to another ladies' fight. And Molly McCann and Diana Belbita. They've got Belbita coming in as a plus 220 underdog, so only 5 points off of the last one in Muslim Salikov. And Molly McCann coming in exactly a minus 275, just as Randy Brown over Muslim Salikov. So like I said, she was tight odds there. Those are the three widest fucking odds on the entirety of the card. Everything else, pretty much fucking coin flips across the board. It's pick'em. It's a great week to do parlays because you don't know who any of the fucking fighters are anyway. So you may as well just fucking close your eyes, fucking punch the buttons, and pray to God you hit, because that's all you're gonna get this week with this kind of fuckery. I mean, sure, you can take their odds into account, but the way last week went, don't take the odds into account because that shit ain't gonna work for you. Or 2 weeks ago, not last week, but our last set of picks. So take all that with a grain of salt. I doubt the betting lines on these are going to move much between now and Saturday. The only time you see major fucking changes is when there's already a wide margin, and then somebody will start to make stupid bets on people, and that'll close margins up. This week, that ain't going to happen. They're pretty much set in stone at this point. So take that all with a grain of salt, and hopefully next week we have some better, crazier odds to talk about, because this week was not it. If you're a betting man, fucking parlays all week long this week. Make 3 or 4 parlays, like 3 fight parlays. Make 3 or 4 of them. Could make some decent money. But we'll see y'all next week. Join the Tapology group 965. ImNoBookie. Let us know who you are. We'll get you in. And then we'll talk shit about you when you fail miserably, or pat you on the back when you do well.
Much appreciated, sir. Thank you. But that being said, normally this would be the point where we talk about all the neat, fun stuff on the fight card and the interesting fights, and we just frankly don't have that on this card. The vast majority of everything that's going to be interesting on this card, for the most part, we pretty much went over in the cans and contenders segment. We covered the co-main event. We covered the main event. There aren't really a lot of sleepers on this. There aren't really any fights that are getting talked about more than they should be. There aren't any that aren't getting talked about that should be talked about. This is quite literally a genuine UFC hangover card. This is one of those nights that we talk about where these are not fights to keep everyone entertained and get everyone excited about it. These are contractual obligations. None of these have real big implications. Even the main event. If the main event is a boring 5-round snooze fest that goes to a draw, it will not impact that division one way or another. Co-main events, the same exact thing. Those two boys can put on the most boring 15-minute snooze fest you've ever fucking seen, and Monday morning it won't mean shit. There's just not a lot to be excited about. The fact of the matter is that this is the entry into the whole of the fights to be excited about, because like we mentioned earlier, this weekend starts 11 weekends consecutively where we've got UFC fights. We don't have a break again until after UFC 300. So strap in. These might not be the best, but it's just literally the tip of the iceberg. You boys have anything on this card you particularly want to go over before we let them out of here this evening?
This might be a good weekend for me to do a Super Saturday drunk show.
Very possible, because this fight does start, the prelims for the card Saturday start at 3 p.m. Central Time. So this whole card should be wrapped up and done before 8:30, 9 o'clock p.m. probably. This might be a good Saturday to have yourself a cocktail or 7. Just make sure your desk is comfortably locked to the floor.
I'm gonna have to put the fucking roller stoppers down here.
Yeah, I agree. You got to take some dabs. You got to get a little fucked up. But if I was excited about any prelim fights, like I said on the cans and contenders, Markel Maderos versus Landon Quinones, that might be good. Co-main and main, hopefully, are good. Hopefully, they turn out the way we think they can. We'll see.
Only the can prove us wrong.
Yep.
Right. We'll see. We will see indeed. So with that being said, that is pretty much all we have got for this particular episode. If you like what we get up to around here, pretty much every Thursday night, there are fights to talk about. You will catch us live on youtube.com/ImNoJoe, 9:30 p.m. ish Central Standard Time. The week after that, the all audio format drops on anchor.fm/ImNoJoe. You can pick it up to your podcast consumption platform of choice, Google, Apple, Spotify. We're fucking everywhere. You can get everything through there, all for free. If you do want to help out around here, patreon.com/ImNoJoe. Wait till next month, though. Take care of Ed's part first. Come back next month if you still like what we're doing. The other side of that coin, if you don't like what we're up to around here, first and foremost, what the fuck are you still doing this deep into a podcast you didn't enjoy? Give us a thumbs down and then go fuck yourself. We won't even dispute it. That being said, when we close up shop around here on Thursday nights, that's not the end of the fun, because tomorrow morning and pretty much every Friday morning, that gentleman over there and his other half kick out their podcast, the Slow Bake and Contemplate podcast, over on Spreaker.com. You can hit the description down below to get their links for their podcast, their social medias, or hop over to their very own channel on the I'm No Joe Discord server, where they always post their live links as soon as they are finished as well. Don't miss out on those boys.
Hell yeah, appreciate you, brother. And in case you fucking missed last night, you can swing back around next fucking week. The fun never fucking stops for us. Wednesday night, every fucking Wednesday around 9:30ish. You know, you got the Foggy Fairway on the Brother Golf T Vapes YouTube channel. You learn some fucking fun mixes and recipes for your vapes. Just chill and have a good time, but make sure you show the brother some fucking love.
Hey, sir. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, our gentleman right above me here on the meter, he actually does more than one thing, which is surprising. In fact, he does many things. So if you go right down below, there's a couple of link trees. One is /the meter does many things. You can also use /I'm No Joe. And that will take you to each and every one of the many things that the meter does do. So you'll have plenty of entertainment. And look, if you run out of new stuff, go back and watch the old stuff. Totally fucking worth it.
Much appreciated, sir. That being said, plenty of entertainment to keep you fine, folks, held over until we see you next week. As with last season, we are not doing a recap show this season. If you are interested in how the fun shakes out this weekend, keep an eye tuned to the shorts tab over on youtube.com/ImNoJoe. I believe it's /shorts. I post a quick reaction with a little recap of every interesting finish that happens over the weekend. Instead of doing the whole recap show, you just get the goodies over there. So check those out. Make sure to check out all the boys and all of their fun, all the good links down below. And if you got a buck, give it to Ed. That being said, that's all we've got for this particular episode. So until next time, boys and girls, don't let ignorance stop you. You can root for anything. Unless you really think that this whole fucking Super Bowl conspiracy to get Taylor Swift to endorse Joe Biden, are you fucking stupid? Go away.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening. How do I say goodbye to what we had? The good times.